Hello and welcome to NFL Week 15 with Fumble Sports. Give us a follow at Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble. Fumble Sports taking you through every game of NFL Week 15. The games to pick, the plays to make, whether it's in fantasy or player props, and also the gambling trends and analysis you need to know to take advantage of another full week of NFL action. A lot of games going on this week. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So a full week in so many ways of NFL action. So looking forward to talking to everyone about it. We are on YouTube while in our Metaverse studio. Just an unbelievable job our team at Fumble Sports has done putting this together. Looks fantastic as we go over and check out what looks like the playoff picture for both the AFC and NFC, with the Buffalo Bills in the number one seed in the AFC and the Philadelphia Eagles in the number one seed in the NFC. Some really interesting matchups that we could eventually see come playoff time. If it were to end right now, the number 2 Kansas City Chiefs would host the New England Patriots. That would be an incredible matchup. Once again, putting Andy Reid up against Bill Belichick. I feel like that amazing Patriots defense would get crushed under the colossal weight of Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and what they can do in offense. But that said, great matchup nonetheless. The Ravens would be hosting the Miami Dolphins in a 3-6 matchup that sees hopefully Lamar Jackson back. And in the last matchup in the AFC, it would be the number 4 Tennessee Titans hosting the number 5 Cincinnati Bengals. Wonder if that 3-5 slot will switch as the NFC North champion. Will it be the Bengals? Will it be the Ravens? We'll see in the coming weeks. Over on the NFC side, that 2-7 matchup between the Giants and the Vikings, that could see Kirk Cousins put up quite a lot of points. Meanwhile, the Commanders at the 6 going up against the 49ers in a 3. Again, something we could see change in the coming weeks, as this week the Giants and Commanders play on Sunday Night Football. And finally, that last matchup, which seems to be locked in right now, which is the number 4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Dallas Cowboys. Fox must be licking its chops at the possibility of broadcasting that game, or whatever network gets it. That is absolutely going to be primetime action. So that's what the playoff picture looks like. As for those joining us on this edition of Fumble Sports and going through every NFL game, excited to have Dennis and Lope join us. And of course, Blease, go tweet out the space. Let everyone know that we're going to be talking some NFL action, whether it's betting, fantasy, everything everyone needs to have a successful NFL Week 15. Like I said, there are a lot of games this week, and it starts on Thursday, a big game in the AFC West between the number 1 and number 2 seeds in that division, with the San Francisco 49ers traveling up to the Seattle area to face the Seahawks. 49ers come in 9-4, going up against the Seahawks, who are 7-6. This game is going to be on Amazon Prime. Where I see it, the 49ers are a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 43.5 points. Some gambling trends before we go out to everyone and get their analysis on this game. The 49ers are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games overall, while the Seahawks are 8-2-2 against the spread in their last 12 Thursday games. The 49ers are 2-8-1 against the spread in their last 11 meetings in Seattle against the Seahawks. And the over is 3-0-1 in the last 4 meetings in Seattle, while the over is also 5-1 in the Seahawks' last 6 games following an against the spread loss. As we always do, we love talking to some of our great sports fans and those dedicated who to put in the research. One of them, of course, Dennis, who does such a fabulous job for us. Make sure you give him a follow at Dennis Terava, DENNISTERAVA. Dennis, you do such a fabulous job on your DFS picks every week. First of all, hope you're having a good day. Second of all, what do you think of this Thursday night matchup?
I'm excited for it. I watched the San Fran game this past weekend, and man, they just have so many weapons. Obviously disappointed with Debo going down, but I was impressed by Purdy, assuming he's healthy enough to go. I would love to see a repeat here. They definitely entertained. They put a good product on the screen. And Seattle's not a slouch either. I think this will be a fun game to watch.
Do you have any favorite plays as for the DFS or fantasy? I know this is a big week for a lot of fantasy owners. Any thoughts on it in that regard?
Sometimes when you're looking to rent a car, you might want to go the economy line. Maybe you go the full size. This week, I recommend go SUV. Take Christian McCaffrey. It's sometimes you just have to splurge. He's $8,600 on DraftKings for DFS. Sit back and just enjoy the numbers that he'll put up. You saw what he did last week, especially with Debo being down. I think he's going to be getting a lot of usage.
Someone we also turn to get some great analysis is Lope. You can check him out at Lope Dog. That's DAWG on the back end at J Lope Dog. Lope, how you doing tonight? And what do you think of this game on Thursday night between the 49ers and Seahawks?
I'm doing good. Definitely an exciting Thursday night game, which we haven't gotten a whole lot of. I kind of the 49ers are just one you really don't want to bet against right now, no matter who's playing quarterback. But short week and up against a pretty desperate, maybe season on the line type Seahawks team. Plus with the plus 3.5 with the hook, I might be looking towards Seattle with that, and then. The over, 4 of the Seahawks last 5 games have gone over, so over 43.5. Their defense seems to be vulnerable, especially against the rush, and that's what the 49ers can do. So I think that there's a chance for a lot of points.
As Dennis mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, great play. The Seahawks, one of the worst defenses up against the run in the NFL. And one of the reasons I'm recommending Jordan Mason as someone you may want to pick up off the waiver wire. If you've got someone who got injured this past week, or you're scrambling to get someone in a flex or in other positions, Jordan Mason might get some opportunities against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. We've seen it be torched multiple times now. As for how Butt Fumble Sports sees this game going, our pick for this game is San Francisco on the money line, but the Seattle Seahawks to cover. I'm going to buy the 1.5, get that at +5. I feel like on the short week, this being in Seattle, whether it's Purdy or somebody else, I feel like we haven't seen Brock Purdy go on the road yet, and we haven't seen him in front of a hostile crowd. I'm curious to see how a short week, a lack of preparation, and of course, no Debo Samuel, how that will play into everything. I also think the Seahawks are absolutely desperate right now. They're starting to reel a little bit. This is an opportunity for them to get back in the race, at least for that wild card position. I think ultimately the 49ers will win the division. But with that said, I like, again, Seahawks on the money line, Seattle to cover +5. I also like the over in this game. I think you're going to see Christian McCaffrey break some big runs. I think he could be used in the passing game. I see Geno Smith having a decent day as well. There's certainly a number of player prop bets for this game that I like. I'll start with the first one that starts on the 49ers side of things, and that's George Kittle. The Seahawks are one of the worst defenses against tight ends as well. George Kittle, I feel like the security blanket for every young quarterback is that tight end position. So I fully expect Kittle to be involved in the offense. I like Kittle over 40.5 receiving yards. I'm getting that at -115 right now. Feel really good about that. Feel like that's one that could absolutely cash. So I'm curious to know what his player prop bet total is set at for receiving yards. They haven't put that out yet in the sports book that I watch, but really curious. On the other side of the ball for the Seattle Seahawks, there are 2 plays on the same player that I'm looking at. The first one has to do with touchdowns. I like Tyler Lockett on an anytime touchdown. He's on a 6-game consecutive touchdown streak. I see that continuing. Not sure if Geno's going to get 2 touchdown passes in this game. Still kind of working that out in my mind and through the simulations that I do. But I certainly like Lockett. I'm getting that at +200, so good plus money on that. And another one for Lockett, this has to do with longest reception. Over 23.5 yards. I feel like that's a really good play. Consistently, he hits over that. And in the last few weeks, he's been doing that as well. Earlier in the year, when it was the Seahawks at the 49ers, his longest reception was 27. So again, I feel like he's someone that Geno will find down the field. Feel like that's a good opportunity. No, I threw out a lot of bets out there for you, but felt like that this Thursday night game offers a number of good plays, whether it's in player props, whether it's in fantasy, and of course, the game itself. Feel like this is a good one. I am hedging, as you can hear, going with the 49ers on the money line. That's really a statement about their defense and their coaching and their running game. But having the Seahawks on the cover +5, I feel like I'm on the right side of both things. We move now to Saturday. Like I said, Big week of games. We've covered Thursday. Now we go to Saturday with no college football. We get a lot more NFL action through our weekend, and that starts at 1 p.m. with the 4-8-1 Indianapolis Colts playing the 10-3 Minnesota Vikings, who come off a loss to the Detroit Lions. This game and the games on Saturday will be on NFL Network. The Vikings are a 4-point favorite where I see it, and the over-under set at 48.5 points. Give you a few gambling trends before we go get some analysis from everyone. The Colts are 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games, while the Vikings are 5-2-1 against the spread in their last 8 games. The Colts are 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 meetings they've had against the Vikings, while the under is 4-0 in the last 4 meetings, and the over is 5-1 in the Vikings' last 6 home games. I'll start with Loeb to get some gambling analysis first, and then we'll go to Dennis to get some fantasy takes. Loeb, how do you see this game playing out between the Colts and the Vikings?
This is one of the stronger plays for me of the week. I'm going to take the Vikings at home. I'll swallow the 4. They've won each of their last 12 games as favorites, so definitely at least on the money line. They've covered the spread against 7 of their last AFC opponents. 5 of their games at home, 5 of the last 6 at home's gone over. So I'd expect a lot of points. The 48.5 maybe scares me. If you buy it down, it might be more favorable. But this is a Vikings team that I think is a little upset and needs to prove something. And this is a Colts team that's just getting ready for next year. So I know they're coming off a bye, but I just still don't think they got enough to get things right. And I think Justin Jefferson's going to show out.
Dennis, Adam Thielen is a player that I'm recommending as a sit this week. Feel like he's going up against a good secondary. What are your thoughts on this game from a fantasy standpoint?
Totally agree with your sentiment on Thielen. I think if we look at last week, what we learned from watching the Vikings is you start your QB and or your receivers against them. We saw Goff just absolutely go off, and many of the Lions that were playing were setting some season high numbers in terms of receiving points. So they're 30th against receivers, Minnesota that is. So looking at Pittman, he's available for $5,800. We also have Paris Campbell at $4,400, Alec Pierce at $3,900. I think those are great values for potential high return on investment. And although people who have made it to the fantasy playoffs in their traditional leagues probably have the quarterback position secured if they did lose someone like Kyler Murray, Matt Ryan is only rostered in about 6% ranked defense for fantasy points for quarterbacks. So whether you want him in DFS or if you need to pick up a stream, he might be a good look. He's at 5,200 on DraftKings.
Now that you've heard how Logue feels about this game from a gambling standpoint and Dennis's take on fantasy, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is Minnesota on the money line. We are considering the Colts on a cover play at plus 5.5 after you buy up that ceiling. And maybe the over, there's some trends that kind of lean towards that way. But for now, we're just playing this game pretty safe, not getting too risky with it. Kirk Cousins, 1 p.m. at home. You have to feel like that's going to be a Vikings win. But other than that, we're going to wait until later in the week. I know I usually say that early in the week is one of the best times to get some gambling opportunities in, but I feel like this game, I want to get a little bit more information before I go and make that bet. So right now, it's just Vikings on the money line, though I may fold that in to some other parlays throughout the week, including I will put out a parlay for Saturday games. Definitely check that out. We'll do like a parlay pyramid. We like to put those out quite a bit. So that said, expect one of those for Saturday because 3 games. And the second one of those kicks off at 4 p.m. on NFL Network between the 9-4 Baltimore Ravens and the 5-8 Cleveland Browns. Ravens got a surprise win last week, in my estimation, against the Pittsburgh Steelers team that I thought that they were going to lose to. But Kenny Pickett going out really changed the dynamic and ultimately the outcome of that game. In this one, though, the Browns are a 2-point favorite with the over-under set at 38.5 points. Some gambling trends before we get some analysis and some fantasy information on this game. The Ravens are 6-1-1 against the spread in their last 8 meetings in Cleveland against the Browns, while the road team, matching that stat, is 18-7-1 against the spread in the last 26 meetings between the two teams. So a long history of the road team prevailing against the spread. The Browns are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games played on Saturday. The under is 8-2 in the Ravens' last 10 games overall, but the over is 4-1-1 in the Browns' last 6 home games. So trends going in different directions as for the total. Lope, what are your thoughts on this AFC North battle between the Ravens and Browns?
It's a game that kind of scares me because it's got a little bit of the unknown factor with the Ravens offense. They did surprise, but with them getting +3, I think that be the area that I would lean towards. In the against the Browns, they usually play pretty well, and I would also probably take the under. I can't see it being too high scoring. These AFC North games a lot of times keep it low, and the Ravens defense is starting to get better against the run, which is where the Browns' strength is. Deshaun Watson still kind of doesn't have the rapport with a lot of his receivers, so not a very strong play, but I am leaning towards the Ravens +3.
Dennis, Deshaun Watson is a quarterback I'm recommending to pick up off the waiver wire, given so many fantasy owners are looking for a quarterback because of injuries or other reasons in this week. Is there any other player that maybe we should be targeting, whether it's waiver wire plays or when it comes to fantasy or DFS?
This game, I don't think we're going to see a lot of scoring. I tend to agree with Lope. I think we'll see a little bit of a repeat of the Ravens-Steelers games from last week. If there was one position at least to focus, it'd be on one of the Baltimore running backs. I think that Cleveland's 30th against the run. The only question here is the number of snaps that each of them will see. I think J.K. Dobbins pretty much led the way last week, assuming that holds true this week. I like him on DFS, 5,200, especially with Cleveland's track record against running backs. They give up a lot of points, and I think there will be a lot of running as we.
I think Dennis cut out a little bit at the end. But that said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is Cleveland to cover. I would buy the 1.5. That gets me to Cleveland -1. I'm getting that at -140. Feel like I'm happy taking that opportunity to put that money down. That said, the trends concern me and the history of these two teams concerns me. So I am going to put a bet down. I'm considering it for now, but I want to see how the public pushes the line ultimately. But I'm going to put down money on the Ravens to cover. I'm hoping that the public kind of likes Cleveland enough to give me some extra room on that. Right now, I would get it at +4 if I bought the 1.5. I'd like that to be a little bit more, 5.5. But that said, I feel like I want to be on both sides of this. I feel like this is just going to be an in-the-trenches game, really ugly. That said, Deshaun Watson's going to be the better quarterback on the field. And thus far, when we've seen Deshaun Watson be the better quarterback, he's won. He's 1-1. When he's the better quarterback, the Browns have come out winning no matter how he's played. So that said, I lean towards Cleveland covering, and I like once I buy the 1.5, and I'll go in the other direction with Baltimore covering, so I'm on both sides of the seesaw. I do agree with Lope and Dennis. I see this being an underplay. Definitely where my mind's at with this one. So an AFC North game that has big playoff implications, at least for the Ravens. As for the Cleveland Browns, they're really just in preparation for 2023 mode. Let's see if Deshaun Watson can play a little bit better next week. The last game of the Saturday three-game feature is the 8-5 Miami Dolphins going up against the 10-3 Buffalo Bills. Once again, this game is on NFL Network. Where I see it, Buffalo is a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 42 points. Just to note, could be some weather in this game. We're seeing right now it could be very foggy. Definitely going to be cold. One of the coldest games, maybe the coldest game Tua Tagovailoa has ever played in his pro or college career. I would certainly think high school as well, given that he played in Hawaii. That said, some gambling trends for you before we go around and get some analysis. The Dolphins are 2-7-1 against the spread in their last 10 meetings against the Bills in Buffalo. The Dolphins are also 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 games overall, while the Bills are 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games overall. The over is 6-1 in the last 7 meetings in Buffalo between the two teams, and the under is 9-2 in the Bills' last 11 games overall. Lope, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this very big game, at least for the AFC East, between the Dolphins and the Bills?
As a Dolphins fan, I'm dreading it a little bit. Since their offensive line issues, they still seem to not be able to get Tua in the offense looking like it did. I'm hearing Armstead now has a knee to go along with the pectoral issue. Tyreek Hill was had an ankle iced, although he continued to play through the Chargers game. But it's all, I think, as you mentioned in one of your stats, it has not been good for the Dolphins when they have to go up to Buffalo. I think Buffalo's won 9 of their last 10 home games against the Dolphins. But that being said, I think we've also said that higher spreads versus divisional opponents is rough. So the 7.5 plus with the 7.5 on the hook, that's a lot for me. So I'll take the Bills to win and maybe fold that into a parlay, but I'll stay away from the spread otherwise. As far as the over-under, I'm going to lean towards the under. Like you said, the weather. I also don't think the Dolphins are high scoring as they were. They're in a little bit of a dip, so I'll take my chances on the under and Buffalo on the money line.
I'll give my pick really quick because this is an easy one. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Buffalo on the money line. We are also considering the under, kind of going in the opposite direction of Lope. I could see some points on both sides in this one, but I definitely like Buffalo. Not touching the spread, want to see where the public pushes this line. If I can ultimately get Miami at something like +9 with buying points, maybe would consider it, but don't feel good about their offensive line, the injuries that they've had going up against a really good Bills defense that's only getting stronger. And the history of the under for the Bills this season has me a little concerned, but I do think there are going to be some points. But that said, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Buffalo on the money line. Dennis, the wide receivers of Miami, they've been great for fantasy owners all year. Now you get to the playoffs. Is there any reason to be concerned? Should we be fading Waddle? Should we be fading Hill? Can you still trust Tua Tagovailoa if you're a fantasy owner right now?
I would be nervous. We saw what happened to Mike White in Buffalo last week. I know it was mostly because of the wind conditions and because he was probably playing with a broken rib or two. But that being said, if you're in the playoffs, you made it this far, there's probably not much that you can do in terms of DFS. I'm leaning towards the Bills instead. Specifically, I like to pull a stack whenever possible. If you want to do a stack with Josh Allen, I think you might want to actually look at Dawson Knox. He's very affordable, $3,900 on DraftKings, and Miami's 30th against the tight end in fantasy points allowed. So that might be a nice combo.
Is Jeff Wilson's Jr. his injury enough reason for you to have faith in Raheem Mostert as a must start this week?
I would keep an eye on it, and if so, that he's going to be getting the majority of the carries. Why not? I mean, he can show explosive potential here and there. We could break off a big play, so he might be worth a look on DFS if you've already got him in your league and you're in the playoffs and you're going to ride him anyways.
Make sure you're following at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter to get all the information you need for every NFL game in NFL Week 15. A lot of games going on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Make sure you're following all of our content and, of course, all of our lives, whether it's on YouTube or on TikTok Live, giving out great information, everything to help you win your fantasy week, and, of course, cash your tickets when you're betting these games. Let's shift over now to Sunday, and, of course, this 1 p.m. slated window. Not as many games on Sunday because we are getting more action on Saturday, but still plenty of games in the 1 p.m. window to get us excited and interested. The first one might feel like a trap game. We're going to go through it pretty quick, but we did that last week and almost got burned. This one's the 10-3 Kansas City Chiefs going up against the 11-1 Houston Texans. This game is going to be on CBS. Where I see it, the Chiefs are a 14-point favorite. The over-under set at 49 points. Some gambling trends for you. The road team is 9-4 against the spread in the last 13 meetings between the Chiefs and Texans. The Chiefs are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 meetings in Houston, while the Texans are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 home games. The over is 4-0 in the last 4 meetings between the two teams, and the over is 9-2 in the Chiefs' last 11 road games. Lope, what are your thoughts on this game between the Chiefs and Texans? Do we see a repeat of last week with the Texans covering?
Especially after the Chiefs let the Broncos back into that game. It's definitely I don't like these bigger spreads. I don't think anyone does. So it's probably a game that I would stick away from, other than maybe the Chiefs on a money line if you want to parlay that in something. And then some prop bets, obviously Kelsey or something of that sort. But there's just too much. We don't know. The Chiefs let teams back in. They throw interceptions. They sleep on opponents, and the Texans have been feisty. Like you said, versus the Cowboys or whoever their opponent is. Lovie Smith seems to at least have them still playing and trying to compete. So it's one where I'll probably stay away, but I do like a lot of the trends that you were saying on the over, and the Chiefs defense isn't necessarily one that can come in and just shut the Texans out. So they probably score some points. So I would say a slight lean to the over, Chiefs money line, but not doing much more than that with the game.
Like where your head is at, Lope, feel very similar. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is definitely Kansas City on the money line. We're not going to get crazy with it, but Houston to cover. We've learned our lesson now. When the NFL is going to give us this many points, or rather when Vegas is going to give us this many points, we just have to believe that grown men are going to show up and they're going to put in the work to stay in this game. Houston Texans, I'll buy the 1.5. I'll get Texans at plus 15.5. That just seems like so many points. And again, we just saw the Texans remain competitive. They're a team that knows how to fight. They're better on defense than people think. And on offense, they're just a big play waiting to happen because they just simply don't care. They just take chances. I do like what Lope's thinking. I'm considering the over, not quite putting any money on it yet, but definitely considering it. That said, Dennis, from a fantasy standpoint, how do we feel about Juju Smith-Schuster? I know how I feel about Isaiah Pacheco. He's an absolute start for me. Think he could be one of the biggest plays of the week. McKinnon as well, both of them going up against a terrible Houston Texans run defense. But Juju, Travis Kelce, can we rely on the passing game of the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think we can, because I think as you mentioned, Houston is going to keep this closer than the prognosticators are going with the 2-touchdown spread. I think that you can expect that they'll be playing a full game. You'll see the typical production they put up there. But if you can and want to go with any of the running backs for Kansas City, I'm right there with you. This is the 32nd ranked defense fantasy football points against running backs. So Pacheco, McKinnon, both look to be strong starts for me, and they're both fairly affordable, 5,900 and 5,200 respectively on DraftKings.
Is there anyone on the Texans? How do we feel about Dameon Pierce? Has he hit that rookie wall, and have we given up on him?
I think Pierce is hurt. I'm not sure that he's going to play. I think he had an ankle injury, officially listed as questionable, but my understanding is that it was a high ankle sprain. I think Burkhead or is it Ogunbowale? I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. They're both available 4,600 and 4,700. So I would just keep an eye on Pierce's status. But if you are going to go as between the two teams running back wise, I'd lean towards the Chiefs.
Appreciate all of you joining us on YouTube and on our Twitter space. Make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. The next game we're going to go into in this 1 p.m. window is the 10-3 Dallas Cowboys against the 5-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. This game is on Fox. Where I see it, the Cowboys are a 5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 47.5 points. Some gambling trends. The Cowboys are 11-3 against the spread in their last 14 road games, while the Jaguars are 3-1-1 in their last 5 games overall against the spread. The underdog is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the Cowboys and the Jaguars. The over is 5-0 in the last 5 meetings between the two teams, and the over is also 5-1 in the Cowboys' last 6 games overall. Lope, Cowboys barely survived the Houston Texans last week at home. Meanwhile, the Jaguars got an impressive win against the Tennessee Titans on the road. Now these teams kind of have an opposite week. One's traveling, one's staying at home. How do you feel like this game plays out between the Cowboys and Jaguars?
As much as I do want to buy into this as a trap game for the Cowboys as they look ahead to the Eagles, and the Jaguars have looked impressive. They've just been so inconsistent and up and down, kind of what we've seen with younger teams. When they're up, they're really good. When they're down, they disappoint. So as soon as you start to believe in them, but with 4.5, I think that it's worth maybe buying it up or taking a chance. So I'll definitely be looking in, and I think the Jaguars should be able to hang in with a Cowboys team that doesn't sometimes plays down to their opposition and doesn't always finish off teams like this. So you saw what the Colts were able to hang around, and the Texans. So I think the Cowboys are safe on the money line, but I'll lean to the Jaguars with the spread.
Much like Lope, I feel like the trap game for the Cowboys was last week. Even though they have the Eagles coming up, I feel like they're going to get right, play a little bit better in this game. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Dallas on the money line. But much like Lope, I've been impressed with what I've seen from the Jaguars over the last few weeks. Trevor Lawrence is starting to make strides, starting to have that second year maturation that we wanted to see with him under Doug Peterson. And we're seeing a better play out of their wide receiver. So excited to see the Jaguars offense go up against a really talented Dallas defense. So in this one, Dallas money line, but I do like the Jaguars to cover. I would buy the 1.5. That gets me Jaguars plus 6.5. I'm also considering the over. Think we could see some points in this one. That said, when it comes to a fantasy standpoint, love Tony Pollard. Feel like he's a must start week in, week out for all of you weekly fantasy owners. Dennis, from a daily fantasy standpoint, is there anyone we like in this game?
First, let me give you the shout out that you deserve. You asked me about Trevor Lawrence last week. I was lukewarm. I was wrong. You were right. Well done. I think from a fantasy perspective, that was his best game all year. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones definitely look like they're getting looks. I want to talk quickly, though, about Evan Engram. I don't know if obviously he blew up. He had 40-something points, but I didn't realize the targets. He had 15 targets last week, and that was preceded by 7 targets the week before. I believe he's rostered in only about 44% of ESPN leagues. I just was never a believer, but there's something to be said. If you need a tight end or if you want to stream him, he's still very affordable. And or if you can pick him up in your traditional league and you need a tight end start for the week, he would definitely appear to be a safe stream.
Dennis, I hate to follow you praising us with us kind of coming back at you and coming back on that question. I'm curious to know, Evan Engram, he's going up against the Dallas defense that's one of the best in fantasy against tight ends. Even with that said, do you feel like the chemistry we saw last week with Engram carries over even up against a defense that's so good against tight ends?
I think it's one of those calculated risks that sometimes you need to just look the other way. I'm wondering if Engram turns into the second, third, or fourth read, that he maybe is the benefactor of that. That would be what would reinforce my confidence in him, and definitely just riding the momentum with respect to last week's game.
How do we feel about Travis Etienne? Is he worth a start this week, or would you put him in more of a flex spot and try and find another running back to be in that RB2?
That's exactly what I would be thinking. I prefer to flex him and look around. There are just so much options out there, better matchups running back wise, that I think you can pass on him this week, or if you have to, go flex.
So appreciate all of you guys joining us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're checking out all of our content. We put out waiver wire watch content, start, flex, and sit, player prop bets, game picks, rants, everything the NFL fan needs to be successful throughout the week and to get a lot of entertainment while hopefully cashing some tickets and beating their friends and coworkers in fantasy leagues. The next game we're going to go into is the 12-1 Philadelphia Eagles against the 3-10 Chicago Bears. This game is on Fox. Where I see it, the Eagles are a 9-point favorite and the over-under is set at 49 points. Some gambling trends before we break this game down. The Eagles are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 meetings against the Bears. The Bears are 1-3-1 against the spread in their last 5 home games. The over is 7-1 in the Eagles' last 8 games overall. The over is also 7-0 in the Bears' last 7 games overall. And the over is also 5-1 in the Bears' last 6 games following a bye week. Lope, lot of over trends there. 1, do you like the over in this game? And 2, how do you see it playing out from a spread standpoint?
Yeah, I'm going to follow the trends. Definitely go with the over. The Bears' defense is depleted at this point of the year, and the Eagles' offense is something to be rolling with. It's looking like one of the best offenses in the league, and they've been covering all these big spreads. At 9 points, it's probably a little bit too high for me, even though the Eagles have covered these big spreads before, so I'll just stick with them on the money line. But I think you're definitely safe with the over, and even if you want to buy it down a little bit, I think you're safe either way. But I expect a lot of points and a big Eagles win, getting ready for that matchup versus Dallas Christmas Eve.
Lope, is Jalen Hurts your MVP right now?
Yes, absolutely. You can't take it away from the guy. It's just funny that he went from, there was questions of should he be the starter, should the Eagles draft somebody, to after that playoff game last year, to now he looks like he's changed life for Philadelphia. They believe in winning. They believe in him, and he can do it in different ways. So as good as Mahomes and Joe Burrow have been, with only one loss, I think you have to go with Jalen Hurts.
Just like college, Jalen Hurts has been questioned, improved, and is now emerging as one of the best players at his position. So excited to see a young player who didn't come in with hype earn that reputation. We've seen it before. Maybe the most famous example, obviously, is Tom Brady. But one that I also think kind of reminds me of Jalen Hurts a lot is Dak Prescott, someone who was picked in the middle of a draft and all of a sudden really developed into a star quarterback. Obviously, Jalen Hurts might go to heights we haven't seen Prescott go yet with Hurts in the MVP race. Getting back to this game between the Eagles and the Bears, I certainly like the Eagles on the money line. They have too much to play for, and no, I don't think this is a trap game for them, in part because I think going on the road will actually help them a little bit, because I think they'll treat it like a business trip as opposed to being a little bit too complacent at home. With that said, I feel good about their running game going up against the Bears. I think Miles Sanders could have a big day, but we'll get to Dennis's DFS picks in just a second. That said, Philadelphia on the money line is absolutely the Fumble Sports pick with this one. And also, based off of all those over trends, we'll go with the over as well. We're getting that at over 47.5 after you buy a 1.5. Dennis, a lot of talented players in this game, whether it's Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and as I mentioned, Miles Sanders. Who can we anticipate having a big day in this game at Soldier Field?
We're simpatico tonight. I think it's Miles Sanders. Chicago's 29th against the run fantasy points wise. From DFS, he's at a very reasonable $6,500. He's averaging 16 points, fantasy points a game. I like him, and I even like Gainwell. If the Eagles do get out to a lead and we see Sanders get rested, I think we could see some sneaky garbage time points coming from him. He's available at a very cheap $4,600, and against this 29th ranked defense, I like both of those running backs.
Now, Dennis, one of the players I'm not crazy about this week is Cole Kmet. He's a sit for me in fantasy because the Eagles are good against tight ends. That said, he's had good chemistry with Justin Fields. Is there any reason I should feel differently about that?
I'm with you. Unfortunately, I have to start him because I have no other options in one of my playoff games. But I do think they have a nice rhythm. It seems like they've got that familiarity where he's kind of the safety valve. But in terms of expectations, I would tend to shade a little bit of his usual numbers. I think he's usually about a 10 or 10.5 point fantasy average. So I don't know if we'll see that kind of output from him this week.
The next game we're going to get into in this 1 p.m. window is the 5-8 Atlanta Falcons against the 4-9 New Orleans Saints. This one's on Fox. Where I see it, the Saints are a 4-point favorite, and the total, the over-under, is set at 43 points. I've been saying for weeks now I expected Desmond Ridder to get a shot at the starting quarterback position simply because Marcus Mariota wasn't doing enough to keep pace with the Buccaneers despite the NFC South still being wide open. So it was time for the Atlanta Falcons to see what they've got in their rookie before the season ends, because they're going to have a high draft pick. They're going to need to know what to do with it to try and rebuild next year. So Desmond Ridder is the starter for this game. Some gambling trends for everyone before we break this game down. The Falcons are 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 meetings with the Saints. The road team is 5-2 against the spread in the last 7 meetings between the two teams. Some under trends that are all favorable. The under is 4-1 in the Falcons' last 5 games overall. The under is 5-1 in the Saints' last 6 games overall. And the under is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the Falcons and Saints in New Orleans. Low, just like a couple other games we've talked about, there's some heavy trends in one direction. How do you feel about this one? And are you an automatic underplay based off of the trends?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of under, a quarterback making his first start, so that screams a lot of it. So I would say slight lean. I don't know that I'll play that quite yet, but I'm gonna go with the Falcons plus 4.5. I know you got we don't know what we got out of Ridder, and sometimes when these quarterbacks do make a start and you don't have much film on them, it can work against their favor. This was one of the worst passing offenses that he's entering, so it's not a whole lot of pressure. I feel like all the pressure's on the Saints, and they're kind of sputtering, so it might be a surprise here, a little bit of an upset, but I'll take the Falcons plus 4.5. I really like that.
I'm not touching the spread right now, but I do like the Saints on the money line. That is the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one, as well as the under. I'm not going to go against as many trends as we've seen. I know that both defenses have been suspect at times, but I have to believe in the trends. So the under 44.5 points after you buy that up. Dennis, from a fantasy standpoint, is there anything we like in this game on either side?
The only thing I'm looking at is the Saints defense. They're currently projected to have the 3rd highest points scored as a defense. They definitely have shown potential to score points, and be it in the form of sacks. They've had 1 week of 6 sacks, 2 weeks of 4 sacks, lots of weeks with 3 sacks. So considering we've got the rookie starting and the potential for either interceptions or turnovers, I think that would be a pretty good value. And they're definitely available in your traditional leagues. I think they're only rostered on about 40% of teams.
Appreciate all you guys joining us as we go through this slate of games for NFL Week 15. The next one we're going to talk about is the 5-8 Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the 5-8 Carolina Panthers. This game is on CBS. Where I see it, it's a 2.5-point favorite. Carolina is, and the over-under set at 38.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Steelers are 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams, while the Panthers are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games overall. The favorite is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two. The over is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings, and the under is 5-1 in the Panthers' last 6 home games. Lope, how do you feel about this one?
Well, the Steelers do have some quarterback and offensive concerns, so we know their defense is real. I'll follow the trends on this one too, and bet the under. And I also think that Sam Darnold is showing that he's somewhat capable of leading the offense. I know we don't want to believe into too much off of one game, but it looked good enough. And I think that as good as the Steelers defense is starting to get late in the year in a Mike Tomlin game, he'll be able to do enough. So I'll lean towards the Panthers there.
I tend to agree with you, Lope, on this one, just slightly on a money line play. I like Carolina on the money line, but I'm considering the Steelers to cover simply because I think now that they will readjust. I'm assuming Kenny Pickett won't be back for this game, given any concussion history. The Steelers will want to be cautious with this one. But I could see Mitch Trubisky and Najee Harris and the offense of the Steelers just doing enough, but this really being a physical game between a good defense and a good defense on both sides. I feel like Tomlin's going to keep this competitive. So I'm leaning towards Carolina on the money line, but the Steelers on a cover play. buy the 1.5, get it +4. That said, I do like the under for this one, under 40. Dennis, is there any play you like for this one?
I really don't. There's not much there to be looking at. Maybe you want to consider the Panthers defense with Trubisky starting. They are available at $3,300, so definitely on the middle end of price-wise for a defense. And other than that, I don't have much faith in anybody else.
Appreciate all of you joining us at But Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. There is one more game left in this 1 p.m. window, but there is no spread for it so far. It moved a little bit. It was actually with the Lions a 1-point favorite, then moved to a pick'em game. This one is the Lions at the Jets. No spread, like I said. Vegas still trying to figure out how it feels about things. With Mike White's injury, we don't know whether he's going to play or not. That's what's keeping Vegas from putting this game out. Where I did see it before Monday night, it was a 44.5-point total. We'll see if that stays anywhere. But that said, do want to give you a few gambling trends on that one. I know we don't have anything for it yet because of Mike White, but gambling trends always useful. The Lions are 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 games overall, while the Jets are 5-2 against the spread versus a team with a losing record. The over is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. The over is 4-1 in the Lions' last 5 games overall, and the under is 6-2 in the Jets' last games, 8 games overall. Because there's no spread, we'll skip Lope, we'll skip my pick. We won't get to bets on this one. But from a fantasy standpoint, I absolutely wanted to bring this game up with you, Dennis. Amon-Ra St. Brown going up against Sauce Gardner. Jared Goff, he's played so well at home, not as well on the road. A lot of fantasy owners don't know what to do. Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, Jamison Williams, is he someone to pick up? Dennis, where do you see this game playing into fantasy owners' plans for Saturday and Sunday?
With respect to the Lions fantasy owners, if you can find alternatives, I would. I know Jared Goff had a great game, but he's on the road. He's playing against the third best fantasy defense here, at least with respect to the wide receivers. I would pivot. With respect to the Jets, Garrett Wilson is a certifiable stud, whether it's fantasy or not. And I'm a Jet fan. I absolutely love the potential that we've got here with him as one of our receivers. Elijah Moore, he last week had 10 targets, and that was an increase from 6 targets the week previously. So I think both Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson are legitimate options at receiver. And like you, I mean, just from a fantasy perspective, I'm interested in Mike White. But as a fan, of course, I just feel like we've got a pulse. We've got a fighting chance with him. I don't want to see Flacco go in there and fumble the first time he's touched by one of the Lions defenders.
Yeah, I was so disappointed to see that play because it was one of those in which it was like, yeah, this is why you've been on the bench. A very disappointing play. And Mike White immediately knew he had to put those ribs back into place and get himself back on the field. So we'll see what Mike White's status is. That said, that takes us through the 1 p.m. slate of games. Like I mentioned multiple times in this show, lots of football action in the coming days. A Thursday night game, 3 games on Saturday, a full slate of games on Sunday, and of course, the Monday night football game. Let's now get to the Sunday 4 p.m. window. The 4-9 Arizona Cardinals going up against the 3-10 Denver Broncos. This game is on Fox. No spread on this one right now, simply because we have some injury questions with 2 quarterbacks that aren't in. This game was a 2.5-point spread in favor of Arizona on Monday night before Monday Night Football kicked off. But once Kyler Murray got hurt, Vegas did not want to put out anything on either side. Really interesting. We thought a week ago we were going to be getting Kyler Murray against Russell Wilson. Now we're getting Colt McCoy against Brett Ripien. Am I even saying that right? I don't even know if I've got – I always say Ripken because I always think of Cal Ripken, but it just speaks to how little I know about this guy. So really interesting to see what we're going to get. This is another one that we're going to kind of gloss over and go through fast. I will give some gambling trends for it. The favorite is 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the two teams. The Cardinals are 1-5 against the spread in the last 6 meetings, so it tells you how often they were favored. Over is 6-0 in the last 6 meetings between the two. The under is 6-2 in the Cardinals' last 8 road games, and the under is 5-1 in the Broncos' last 6 home games. Lope, we're not going to talk about gambling on this one, but simply from a fan standpoint and what it means to the NFL, what does the loss of Kyler Murray mean to the Cardinals, mean to the NFL, and mean to a Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens? The Cardinals just gave a big contract to Kyler Murray. Now, does that change how teams look at negotiating with some of these quote-unquote face-of-franchise quarterbacks like Kyler Murray?
I think it absolutely does, and that's why the Deshaun Watson fully guaranteed contract scared a lot of owners. I think that these with quarterback, they touch the ball every play, so they're always susceptible to injury. But it was tough just as a fan or a liker of the NFL anyways to watch Kyler not be able to continue and probably not be able to continue this season and go into next. The growth has been stunted this year for whatever reason, whether it's a rift with Cliff Kingsbury or not, and to now see that he's not going to. And then on the other end, Russell Wilson dealing with a concussion, and just the amount of kick him while he's down or pile on that he's going to go through all the way until next year when he's able to maybe prove something. It's tough to see these two teams and these two fan bases, but definitely as a Cardinals fan, I think your heart sank with that much money being dealt out and given to them. As for the Ravens, I think this is why they've held off on so much of Lamar Jackson, even though injuries scare him. I think the Ravens will end up having to pony up money, but it's definitely something the owners are going to look at going forward.
Dennis, with 2 backup quarterbacks in this game, maybe we feel better about Colt McCoy. Maybe that means DeAndre Hopkins is a bit of a play. To me, Hollywood Brown is an absolute sit for me. I wouldn't touch him at all, given there is no Kyler Murray in this game. How do you feel about this one? Is there anyone from a fantasy standpoint that you'd even consider?
The only thing I would say is that Arizona is terrible against tight ends. And we saw Hunter Henry, I think he had 70 yards total last night, albeit on 3 catches. So the only player that might be worth a look would be Dulcich. And I understand he's going to be going with a backup QB, but for the same reasons you mentioned earlier with Purdy and Kittle, I think the same analysis could apply for him.
Completely agree with that. Dulcich for us is a flex play this week, even despite the backup, because as we said last night in our Monday Night Football coverage, we knew how bad the Cardinals were against tight ends, and we gave out a lot of bets for Hunter Henry. Fortunately, most of them cashed, so thank you very much, Arizona Cardinals, for contributing to the Butt Fumble Sports Fund. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And, of course, at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We're going through all of NFL Week 15. Can't believe we're already to the 15th week of the NFL season. The next game features one of those 2 teams from Monday Night Football. It's the 7-6 New England Patriots traveling to the Las Vegas Raiders, who come in with a 5-8 record. This game has been flexed out of prime time and is going to be on Fox. Where I see it right now, the Patriots are a 1-point favorite. The over-under set at 44.5. Interestingly enough, before Monday Night Football kicked off, the Raiders were favored in this game. Now, after the Patriots got a very big win, all of a sudden the Patriots are favored. Interesting to note, the Raiders have had more time to get healthy for this game, extra rest. They played last Thursday, while the Patriots, obviously Monday night, fewer days, and they suffered a couple injuries in that game. So Vegas might be setting some people up here. Curious to know what the injury status is. And, of course, the big storyline in this one, Belichick, Josh McDaniels. You'll hear enough about that on ESPN and elsewhere, so I'll let you hear about it there. But we'll give you some gambling trends so you're ready for this one. The Patriots are 4-1-1 against the spread in their last 6 road games. The Raiders are 4-0 against the spread versus a team with a winning record. The favorite is 6-1-1 against the spread in the last 8 meetings between the 2 teams. The under is 5-1 in the Patriots' last 6 games, and the under is 5-2 in the Raiders' last 7 games. Lope, big game with playoff implications, at least for the Patriots. Does Josh McDaniels get the better of Bill Belichick in this one between the Patriots and the Raiders?
I mean, I'm sickened. I think you guys got a joke or something. Stay away from the Raiders or don't bet them the rest of the year. And that Thursday game, they're up against Baker Mayfield and the Rams, and they absolutely somehow lose that. It's just crushing. So every part of me wants to bet the Patriots, but yeah, I think it's -1 is a good number. It's a coin flip game. It's a scary game. I don't see the Raiders just gonna go away and shell up for the year. So the Patriots definitely got their work cut out for them, but they do travel well on the road. I think you said it. 4 of their last 5, they've covered the spread. So I'll lean with the Patriots -1, and I'll take the under. I think this Patriots defense is rolling, and I think Belichick's familiar enough with McDaniels that he'll keep this a low scoring game, and I'll take the Patriots -1.
Yeah, do not bet the Raiders. It is a risky play no matter what you do. You bet against them, they win. You bet on them, they lose. It's just a terrible play either way. And the Patriots at this point, the one thing I'll say is I'm very much in agreement with Lope. You heard the trend earlier. The Patriots play better on the road this year. Whether it's Mac Jones doesn't have to hear Bailey Zappi chants in his ear, or this team just simply plays better because they've had easier games on the road, who knows? But the Patriots are a better team on the road this year, and they're going to stay on the West Coast, so they're not making the extra travel midweek. I think for a number of reasons, I like what I'm seeing from the Patriots. Again, to Lope's point, really on the defensive side of the ball, they limited DeAndre Hopkins a bit more than I expected last night. He still hit on the player prop bet that we put out, but it was a bit of a blueprint for how they're going to try and cover Davante Adams, another superstar receiver that the opposing offense relies on to really, deliver not just points, but to define the speed, vibe, and tempo of the game. Curious to know what Josh McDaniels has in store for the Patriots. Wonder if he tries to outsmart Bill Belichick. Matt Patricia right now is outsmarting himself. He's just calling a really bad and kind of high school level of offense. So right now, Butt Fumble Sports isn't touching the spread. Curious to know how it moves over the course of the week. If the public starts to like the Patriots more, I would probably buy the 1.5 and take the Raiders to cover, even though I just said I would never play a Raiders bet again. But that may be teasing a bit. We'll get to that on our Sunday morning show, maybe our Saturday morning show as well. But the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is the under 46 points after you buy a 1.5. As Lope said, this Patriots defense is looking better and better, but they really look good against bad teams. And I would put the Raiders in the bad team category. I know on offense sometimes they can be explosive, but you take away Davante Adams, Josh Jacobs is going up against a tough run defense. So the Raiders are going to have both guys going well. Don't think that happens. The under 46 is the play for me. Dennis, is there anyone in fantasy you like for this game? Davante Adams, do you think the Patriots slow him down, or do you think he can get you a touchdown in fantasy, or at least some big gains between the 20s?
That is exactly the fear I have when I have a stud player like DeAndre Hopkins last night. I wonder, is it worth putting him out there and hoping that they break off a play, or are they going to get neutralized because they are the key weapon on the offense? I think that they're going to have Davante in check. I think you got to start him if you've got him already. From a running back perspective, I'm just sad because I have Ramondre, and I don't think he's going to be available. On one hand, I was encouraged that he attempted to come back into the game. On the other hand, I think shorter week, I don't know that he's going to be healthy enough in time. So I would keep an eye on his health status. Damian Harris is available in traditional leagues still. He's only rostered on about 55% of teams. And if he's not available, then you might be able to have a nice pickup, or inexpensive one at least, with Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris. They're both available for $4,000 on DraftKings currently. So you're going against the 27th ranked defense for points allowed to running backs with the Raiders. So whomever it is that's healthy enough to play, just keep an eye and pay attention to see who that will be. And you might have a good one with whomever it is that gets the start for the Patriots.
But Fumble Sports has already put out some content around just what Dennis said. Damian Harris, I expect him to be back for this upcoming week. I think it's one of the reasons he was held out for Monday Night Football, is to get him ready for this game against the Raiders. And good timing if you're the Patriots. Good timing despite a bad situation. Stevenson goes down. You can bring Damian Harris back. But yeah, you might even want to check out the backups if Harris isn't a go on Sunday. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. The next game we're going to talk, the 9-4 Cincinnati Bengals going up against the 6-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game kicks off at 4:25 on Fox. Where I see it, the Bengals are a 3.5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 47 points. Some gambling trends before we get analysis on this one. The Bengals are 13-3 against the spread in their last 16 road games, while the Buccaneers are 1-6-1 against the spread in their last 8 home games. The underdog is 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 meetings between the Bengals and Bucs, and the under is 13-4-1 in the Bengals' last 18 games overall, while the under is also 4-1 in the Bucs' last 5 home games. Lope, you heard some of the trends, but we've also just seen some really poor play from the Buccaneers over the last 4 weeks, while the Bengals have started to emerge, play better as Joe Burrow really starts to enter at least the fringes of that MVP conversation. How do you feel this game's going to play out between the Bengals and the Buccaneers?
I mean, yeah, the Bengals look like they're hitting their stride and they're red hot with it. 7 of their last 8 games are wins. They've covered the spread in 10 of their last 11. So the play for me is going to be the Bengals. The hook scares me a little bit. So, but at 3.5, I'll still take that. This Buccaneers team, I don't know if it's Todd Bowles or what it is. The offense is completely out of sync. They can't run the ball at all. They're one-dimensional. They're having trouble sometimes protecting Brady, and their defense, as good as it can be, it still gives up a lot of big plays. So I think Burrow at some point is going to find one of his weapons deep, and I think they'll pull away. So at 3.5, even though it's scary on the hook, I'll still swallow the points and take the Bengals.
I'm not going to be as brave as Lope because Butt Fumble Sports usually buys the 1.5 because we like to cash as many tickets as we possibly can. We're going to do the same in this game. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Cincinnati to cover after you buy the 1.5. So Cincinnati -2. I'm also considering the under in this one. Just based off of all those trends, the under seemed to be a good play. But that's our pick for this game. Dennis, Tom Brady, he is a sit for me this week. I also have concerns about almost everybody on the passing game of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as that offensive line just continues to have me concerned. While on the other side, I think Jamar Chase could have a really big day. What are your thoughts on this one from a fantasy standpoint?
Totally agree with you on Brady. That was sad to watch last week. And I don't know if you happen to realize it, but the national telecast transferred the viewers locally from that San Fran Tampa game to I think it was to the Seattle game. And that was sometime around the third quarter. So hopefully for Buck fans and Brady fans, we won't see that happen this week. But I agree. That offensive line is just killing him. He's getting beat up. If there's any look here for this game that I'd be taking a look at or kicking the tires on, it would be Hayden Hurst. I think the Bucs are 28th against tight ends for fantasy points allowed from a DFS perspective. He's at $3,200, so he might be worth. I don't know about his health though. Again, that's something I think he's playing a little banged up. And actually, before I sign off here, I actually have some dad duty I have to attend to solo with the kids tonight. So I apologize for the early exit, but I got to get one of my kiddos into bed. But thanks a lot. It was great. As always, I appreciate it. And good luck this weekend.
Make sure you follow Dennis. He does such a great job for us. That's at Dennis Terava. Dennis Teravainen is his name. So check him out at DENNISTERAVA. Dennis, appreciate all you do for us. Make sure you check out Dennis's DFS lineup. Comes out on Saturday. We'll have to get it a little bit earlier this week because we have so much action. So we'll have to figure that out, Dennis. We'll talk about everything coming up. What you got for us, Dennis?
And just on a parting note, best of luck to those folks who are in the playoffs for fantasy. You've worked hard. You made it this far. Hopefully the momentum keeps going. You stay alive to fight another week.
Yeah, hope you had your champagne bath just like everyone else does in the NFL. You don't know if you're going to get it a second time, so enjoy it while you can. Dennis, once again, thank you for all that you do for Butt Fumble Sports. You're absolutely amazing. We couldn't do this without your support. And guys, make sure you check out Dennis's DFS lineup. We publish it at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. It has been red hot this season. Dennis does such a great job. And obviously, it comes second to Dad. So you just imagine how good he is at dad duty with how well he does at DFS duty. Thank you so much, Dennis, and look forward to talking to you later in the week. As for everyone else, let's shift our attention to the final game in the the 4 p.m. slate of windows on Sunday. This one is between the Tennessee Titans and Los Angeles Chargers. Both teams come in with a 7-6 record. This game kicks off at 4:25 on CBS. The Chargers are a 3-point favorite coming off that win on Sunday night against the Miami Dolphins. The over-under set at 47 points. Some gambling trends before we get some analysis on this one. The Titans are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 road games. The favorite is 6-2-2 against the spread in the last 10 meetings between the two teams. And the home team is 3-1-2 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the two. The over is 5-2 in the last 7 meetings, and the over is 7-3 in the Chargers' last 10 home games. Lope, what's your take on this game from a gambling standpoint?
Well, I know Herbert looked really good on Sunday night, and the Titans kind of looked completely out of sync. I don't know if it's management issues or whatever, but Herbert's offensive line is still an issue. I mean, that's not really a good Dolphins pass rush, and he was under pressure all game. So I think eventually it's going to catch up to him. And I think the Titans, even though they've had a lull, I think they're still a well-coached team and can get back on track. The passing offense is atrocious, and with Derrick Henry not showing out, extending, it's been tough, but I still think Mike Vrabel has something, and at +3, I'll take those points, and I'll lean towards the under 47, and I think those are both pretty strong plays.
For Butt Fumble Sports, the pick for this one is the Chargers to cover after you buy the 1.5. I am considering the Tennessee Titans to cover, but I'm only considering it. They've disappointed me now multiple weeks in a row, so I'm having a tough time starting to believe in them. Meanwhile, the Chargers are starting to make those strides that you want to see from a team that we had high expectations for. They had a number of injuries. They're starting to get healthy. This offense looks good. So I'm expecting the Chargers to play better. And like I said, considering the Titans to cover, but not touching it for now, waiting to see where the public pushes this line as the week goes on. I'm also considering the over, though, in this one. The gambling trends simply suggest the over might be a good play, so I am considering that. But from a fantasy standpoint, love the Chargers in a number of ways. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. The Tennessee Titans defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL against the pass. In fact, when it comes to the passing yards allowed, they're allowing the second most, 283 passing yards per game. So a lot of opportunities in fantasy. You will definitely hear from Butt Fumble Sports later in the week when it comes to player prop bets. We're going to find ways to get Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Justin Herbert into our player prop bets however we can. Lots of opportunities there. So whether it's fantasy or it's in player prop bets, something to consider. That said, you may want to fade Austin Eckler a little bit. The Tennessee Titans are good against the run. That said, Eckler is used in the passing game, so you might want to consider him as more of a flex play than an RB2 play. Appreciate all of you joining us. Make sure you're following us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Big game on Sunday Night Football. This one got flexed in between the 7-5-1 New York Football Giants and the 7-5-1 Washington Commanders. This game kicks off at 8:20 on NBC. Giants coming off a loss to the Eagles. Commanders coming off a bye week. These two teams met 2 weeks ago, and that's where the tie came in for both of them. Where I see it, the Commanders are a 4.5-point favorite, and the over-under set at 40 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Giants are 4-0-0 against the spread in their last 4 meetings in Washington. while the underdog is 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 meetings. Commanders are 6-1-1 against the spread in their last 8 games overall. The under is 3-1-1 in the last 5 meetings between the two teams, and the under is 8-2-1 in the Commanders' last 11 games overall. Lope, what are your thoughts on this very big NFC East matchup between the Giants and Commanders?
Well, having seen since they tied just a little bit ago, so it's a little the 4.5 scary. I think the stat you read off that the Giants have covered their spread in the last 4 games at FedEx Field, so I'm a little scared there. But I do think Washington, especially off a bye, is the better team. So I would consider the money line for now, and then check back maybe on the spread. 4.5 seems like a lot. I know Daniel Jones looks like he's pretty much fallen off, and the Giants do look a little bleak, but 4.5 still a lot, especially for a division team that knows each other really well. And then I have a slight lean towards the over. I do think both the teams can score, but only a slight lean. I'll check back in, but I think the Washington money line is the only safe play here.
If you want to keep track of weather, because usually these games between the Giants and Commanders this time of year has some kind of weather component, make sure you check out NFLweather.com, a great website to not just get the weather at kickoff, but weather throughout a game. This one doesn't appear to have any weather, should have clear skies. So, Lope, you may be right when it comes to offense, but I feel differently. Even despite clear skies, I like the under in this one simply because of the trends. The trends suggest these two teams kind of battle it out, can be sloppy at times, and the under wins out. So I'm going to lean towards the under for now. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is Washington on the money line. The fact they're coming off a bye week, really think that helps them. That said, the history suggests the Giants are going to cover this game. So I like Washington on the money line, Giants to cover after I buy a 1.5. So I'm getting Giants +6, and the under after I buy a 1.5. That's the under 41.5. From a gambling standpoint, really nobody I like in this game. Feel like a lot of the players that I would like, you're not really getting a favorable matchup, giving these teams just saw each other so recently. So the tendencies, the opportunities to maybe take advantage of a matchup, not there like it normally would be. Appreciate all of you guys joining us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And of course, give us a follow at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We will get to the Monday Night Football matchup as well between the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers. The Rams are 4-9, have a 4-9 record after that late win against the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football last week, while the Green Bay Packers come off a bye week with a 5-8 record. This game kicks off at 8:15 on ESPN, and where I see it, the Packers are a 7-point favorite. The over-under set at 39.5 points. Some gambling trends before we get analysis on it. The favorite is 10-2 against the spread in the last 12 meetings between the Rams and Packers. The Packers are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 home games, while the Rams are 4-1 against the spread in their last 6 games on grass. The under is 5-1 in the Rams' last 6 road games, and the over is 4-0 in the Packers' last 4 games overall. Lope, what are your thoughts on this game between Rams and Packers?
The Rams finally, maybe Baker finally gave them a little bit of a spark. So I think 7's a little disrespectful, but the Packers haven't had a good year and seem to be looking on to next year's. So at 7, I think that's a little too high for me. So I would lean towards the Rams on a cover. But other than that, I'm a little hesitant on picking a winner yet here. And then each of the Packers' last 4 games have gone over, so that's where I'm going to lean. I'll go with the over, but I'm a little unsure right now on this one, given the state of both teams and what they're trying to do, or who they're trying to showcase for the rest of the year.
Haven't heard anything about who the quarterback for the Packers is going to be, but if it is Aaron Rodgers, this could be his last game in front of the Packer faithful, as crazy as that sounds. Maybe for that reason, or maybe simply because the Packers simply have a better roster. I do like the Packers on the money line. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Packers on the money line. I am considering taking the Rams plus 8.5 after I buy that up. What I saw from Baker Mayfield last week was encouraging. I just like the Sean McVay, Baker Mayfield, sitcom, drama, whatever it's going to be, buddy cop film that these two guys are ultimately going to make together over the next month. I think it could be really entertaining. And from an offensive standpoint, it kind of fits. I think Baker Mayfield has a lot of the qualities Matthew Stafford does, just not as much height. Maybe he's not quite as strong an arm down the field, but using different arm slots, kind of fitting into this offense. Will be interesting to see how McVay and Baker mesh over the next month or so. That said, Packers, I just think they're a better roster. I like the running game in this one as well. Might also want to consider Christian Watson from a fantasy standpoint. Appreciate all of you joining us for this NFL Week 15 preview show. Butt Fumble Sports going through every game of NFL Week 15, giving you the game picks, gambling trends, analysis, storylines, fantasy plays, and a couple player props. We will have all of that for you and more throughout the week. So make sure you follow us at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We put out content every day to help fantasy owners, gamblers, sports fans, and making sure that you have everything you need to not just be successful, but to be entertained. So make sure you check out our channels, make sure you check out our content, and give us a follow at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and at Sports Fumble on Twitter. Appreciate everyone that joined us tonight. Dennis and Loeb, thank you so much for your analysis. Blease couldn't do the show without you. And for all of those out there, make sure you join us on TikTok Live. We're going to be answering all of your fantasy questions. Fantasy football is what we care about. This is a big week for fantasy owners, so make sure you join us on TikTok Live at Butt Fumble Sports, answering your fantasy football questions. And, of course, we'll be streaming on YouTube as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Good luck this week. Hope your tickets cash and hope your fantasy teams win. And please be joining us. We'll be doing fantasy shows, live shows throughout the week to help you cash a lot of games this week. So be joining us at Butt Fumble Sports